Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught! Jelani Woods! Touchdown! INDY! 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Renew now, drives in low, throws up a shot. It doesn't go. Tipped up and in by Anthony Leal. Indiana takes the lead.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Google me, baby. How's everybody doing on this unbelievable Friday? Welcome aboard for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you so much for being with us, no matter how or where you're listening. We appreciate you, each and every one of you. Another loaded program today as we head out toward the weekend on this Friday. I hope it's been a great week for you. Loaded on the show today, Mike DeCourcy will join us, rescheduled from earlier in the week. Chase Briscoe. I've got the old number 14 hat on today, the only piece of NASCAR memorabilia I've ever owned. But the driver of the number 14, currently for Stuart Haas, and in the future he's heading to Joe Gibbs Racing. But he will join us today as he participates in the Return to the Oval and the Brickyard 400 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway this weekend. Also, Alan Bestwick, a part of the broadcast team and a longtime auto racing voice and face of the sport. So looking forward to having Alan on the show. And a bonus, Derek Elston will join us as well. We'll get you primed for the TBT and see what's going on with the Assembly Ball as they get started tonight. And as Larry pointing out, you can catch that on the BTN. How's everybody doing? Appreciate everybody joining us on the show. Mr. Carr is on board as well. Appreciate you, sir. Everybody popping on from all over. And our friends listening on 97.7 The Ref, ESPN, always the right call, down in the Evansville area, up in the region, on the voice of the region, 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM WJOB, and, of course, the Fan 1380, Fort Wayne's only sports station. Keep it tuned right here after ISB Radio for the Sports Rush. So, no reason to even touch that dial. What, are you ready for the weekend? There's a lot going on. Like I said, the TBT starts tonight. There's racing here in Bloomington on the dirt track, in which Chase Briscoe will actually be participating in, which is very cool. His family is deep into racing. It's a long time deal. He's no Johnny come lately. So look forward to getting Chase back on the program again. We're very fortunate that he'll be joining us. And we're getting closer to the Olympics beginning. John, didn't you qualify for synchronized swimming or something?
Synchronized swimming. If there was anything I'd be qualifying for, that would be the event, wouldn't it? The synchronized
That would be
swimming.
the only one I could qualify for, I promise you.
We'd make a great tag team. I don't know how that works in synchronized swimming, but
you don't tag your boat. You're in there at the same time.
Okay. Yeah, we could put together a good routine last minute if we need to.
Of course. No doubt that, with the recent Major League draft, if you had to guess which team just broke I don't know what it's a record for paying a bonus to a signee. Last year was Paul Skeens of the Pittsburgh Pirates, by the way, who became the first pitcher to start an all-star game the year after he was drafted.
But so you want me to guess the team that did it?
Guess the team that did it again, that broke that this year with their pick.
Gosh, I don't even know. As somebody who doesn't consume a lot of professional baseball, I wouldn't even know who would have an early pick. But I'm just going to go with something random like the Toronto Blue Jays.
Okay, well, that's all you can do. But ironically, with last year being the Pirates, where do they sit? They're mired in they've been mired in mediocrity in the Central Division. Who's another team that has been, this year at least, mired in mediocrity again in the Central Division? The Cincinnati Reds.
Okay.
And long known as one of the, I don't want to say cheapest teams in the Major League Baseball, but not one that spends a ton of money. And, well, they did. They took right-hander Chase Burns and gave him $9.25 million so that he could break that record. I was just shocked to see that it was the Reds. I'm like going, really? The Reds, who don't usually spend that kind of money? But they either truly believe that he's their future or building him up for a trade at some point one day, which is what they usually do, sell all their stuff off. But Wake Forest pitcher, and man, he's a rich man this morning. Also, there were several IU players taken in the draft, and I thought that a lot of them would come back.
One of the schools with the highest amount, someone put up a graphic yesterday, and it showed that Indiana was, I believe, one of maybe 10 to 15 schools who had at least 6 players drafted. I know that sounds like a lot of schools, but you got to remember there's tons of rounds. And
I will guarantee you, draft. I will, other than Iowa, the others were probably all from the SEC and or the ACC.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise. I know one of them was East Carolina. I believe they're from Conference USA. If I can find that graphic, I'll reference it. But
yeah, they had a great year this year.
Mississippi State, I know, was the top team. I think they had 11 players drafted. LSU came in at number 2. I believe they had 9. And then after that, I don't really remember who it was. But yeah, there was mostly SEC, ACC teams. I know Kentucky had 7 players drafted. They obviously had a good season this year. So
that's 13
Indiana among
area
the
players. That's 13 players from Louisville or from Indiana and Kentucky alone.
Yeah. Yeah, very good for, the local, or very good locally for college baseball players.
Not good for Indiana baseball fans, though. They lose a crap ton of talent, man. And as a matter of fact, Rick Bozich, when he was on with us, he said he thought that they had 9 guys drafted. And I was thinking, what's he talking about? It's 6. What it was, though, I believe there were 3 high school players committed to Indiana that also got drafted and won't be coming to Indiana, or they may or may not be. I haven't looked at where they got taken, but Indiana is definitely going to be losing a ton of talent off this team, unfortunately for them. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get to talk about it later, but I don't want to miss it. Mike bringing it up, saying that we're definitely going to miss you on the show. No one's going to miss you more than me. I promise you. That's a guaranteed fact. He has been my right hand for 3.5 years. He made the show better, and it could not be what it is without him. And those are going to be big shoes for someone to follow. If you know anybody that wears big shoes, send them my way, because we can certainly use them.
I really
the only
appreciate
body that's
it.
free in the mornings and has sports knowledge and knowledge around computers. That's what it takes.
Well, Jim, thanks for even, letting me have the chance to do this all those years ago. I can't believe it. 3.5 years. It kind of feels like it's been longer, and I don't mean that in a bad way. But without getting to do this and getting to kind of learn a lot of how all this works on my own, I don't know if an opportunity like this would have risen somewhere else. And it's been
of course
super
it wouldn't
fun
have.
to do
No
this
way.
No. I mean, this is such a unique thing, a unique show. I don't really know anybody else or any other show, definitely in this part of the country, that does something like this. So this has been
there's a reason for that, baby.
So I appreciate everybody, all of the people in the comments who have gotten to know me, because I mean, I'm sure I was a goofball in the first several months of being
I'm a
here.
goofball now. What are you talking about?
getting my feet. And I'm still I was more awkward. I was an awkward little guy who hadn't been out of college very long.
Let me tell you, it was not even that long ago where Johnny is always on me about take it off. I won't. I mean, I won't. I'm still not happy we didn't do a show on Tuesday of this week. On
Tuesday, yeah.
That stuff sticks with me. I can't stand not doing them. And John would always get on me. And I just never felt the comfortability of that for some reason. I don't know. But John finally, well, he didn't wear me down all the way, but he got me to a point to where he could force me to, and by force, I mean,
you always refer to it as cracking the whip.
I listened to John. I never listened to a producer ever before. I'm like, yeah, whatever. That's not right. But John is someone that I have listened to and I've come to rely on so much. And it is truly going to be a loss without him. There is no question of that. But the funny thing is, it was not that long ago. If there was a day where I'm like, why take off? Why don't you host the show? And boy, no. And then finally, next thing you know, he's got his own little podcast going. And I didn't mean that,
No. That's, that is
cool,
what
it's a cool, it's a very cool. No, but I mean, boom, you went from nothing to now. I'm like, oh, well, look at that. But then there was a couple times I'm like, no, just host the damn show. And so, but now look what I created, a monster. He's up and leaving, but no, just kidding. Of course, wish him the best. I'm just jealous that we're losing him. Seriously, he has made this show so much better, and he's going to be very, very hard to replace. And I don't want to have to. I wish I didn't have to replace him. Believe you me, he's been with us for over 3.5 years, and that's a long run to have the same producer. It's just been tremendous, and I hate that it's ending. I will be honest. I hate goodbyes.
I know. I was gonna say I've never been in the position I'm in to where I'm receiving, I guess, so much love, I guess is the best way to say it, on an on-air situation. So apologies if it seems like I don't really know how to react, but I'll just say what I said again. I'm super grateful for all that I've been able to learn and gotten to the ability to do. I mean, yeah, just being thrust into that host role every now and again. That's something that I don't know that I anticipated doing at the beginning when I decided to take this on. But it's definitely been the most beneficial thing that I could have done with this show in terms of my growth and things that I'm looking forward to doing in the future. And, I'm just hoping I can keep doing this. I mean, that's why I got into this business. A lot of people don't think it's a job because it isn't. It doesn't feel like a job. I get up every day because I like doing this stuff. And, I hope I can do it for I say forever, because everybody eventually kind of wants to sell down, retire years and years down the road. But this has been a fun little journey, and I won't be a stranger. I'll be around, and I can't really promote what I'm doing on here, but you can easily find me.
Oh, he's going to Hoosier Illustrated. Oh, quit it. Alec Lasley, who used to be our lead writer at thehoosier.com, that's another thing. Where he's going, it's the whole group used to be a part of ISB Media. All of them. You all should call it ISB Media East or something. But,
I don't want to compete directly with old Jim. So you can find me on a different time of the day. The show will not be live at the beginning. It eventually will be. That's the goal. But the new show is going to be kind of a spinoff of the podcast. Obviously, the podcast is called Out of Touch. My new show is going to be called In Touch with Indiana Sports. And I'm excited to, dip my feet into those waters. So That's all I'll say about that. I don't want to promote on your it just feels awkward. It just feels awkward doing it. You know what I mean? But
because it should, because most people aren't like me. That makes you feel welcome. And like I said, I love what Alec does. He's great writer, and I miss him as well. Trust me. We had a great team, but people get opportunities in life, and guess what? Life is what you make it, and no one should be chastised or any other negative connotations towards trying to do things that are better. So no, don't think I don't think so, Philip. Don't get that idea. Philip's saying Jim's getting put out to pasture.
I don't know what that means.
No,
that might be. See, that's a saying that
you haven't heard that phrase.
No, that's a saying that dates me.
Tanis says he calls BS on John putting his feet in the water. He's heard too many stories about you in hot tubs.
I'm a big hot tub lover. It's no secret.
So that must come from your out of touch thing.
Yeah. I could spend.
What's the deal with the hot tubs?
I could spend 3+ hours in a hot tub.
Well, we let you do that. We talk more about that, but I don't want that to be a lasting picture in my mind. And Mike DeCourcy is waiting, so we're going to take a break. Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday, brought to you by the Rusty Gator down in Bedford. One of the great stops down there, Cajun cuisine all the way around. It is a great place, and not only that, they have live music this weekend. Some tribute bands I saw, so we'll get that up in a little bit and let you know who those are going to be after this break.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the
All right. Good morning, Mike.
Morning, John. How are you?
Doing well.
Mike, this is John's last day.
It is. You have the honor of being on during my last day.
Congratulations again, John. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. You've done a phenomenal job with us.
And I never said this to you, Mike, but whenever I was a kid and I was a super fan of Indiana, I'm still a fan of Indiana, but I'm not as ridiculous as I used to be. But I used to watch Big Ten Network religiously, and you were always on there. And, it was kind of cool getting to work with you after seeing you on TV for a long time.
It's funny. It's like, I used to read you when I was a kid, and then now you were on TV when I was a kid, and it feels like I wasn't on. It doesn't feel like I started TV that long ago.
I mean, Big Ten Network, that's what, 10, 15 years old now?
Well, the network started in 2007, so it's 17 years old.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah,
I was going to say John's going to bust. I was going to say John's going to bust out. When I was 5, I was watching you on TV.
He just did.
Not quite 5, but I was a lot younger.
How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, Jim. How are you?
Oh, I can't complain. It's another busy stinking weekend, which is good.
Yeah.
But daggone it. TBT starts tonight. NASCAR is in town this weekend as well. Chase Briscoe, who is from Mitchell, Indiana, right down the road it's 20 minutes from I'm at south side of Bloomington. That's right. 20 minutes south of there. So very, very cool. You familiar with Chase Briscoe?
Absolutely.
And so he's also running on Bloomington's dirt track tonight.
Oh, wow.
Which is very, very, a very cool deal. Alan Bestwick is coming on today as well.
Nice.
He does a lot of TV. So Derek Elston. And then, of course, we've got the Olympics coming up.
All-Star game tomorrow night. Right? Tomorrow night?
All-Star game.
The WNBA with the you may have heard of Caitlin Clark once or twice.
You know what? Yesterday, when Bob Kravitz is on Thursdays with us, I said that she is going, and I'll say it again when we come back, she is going to completely obliterate the assist record. I don't care who holds it, and I don't care what it is right now in the WNBA. It is gone. I mean, it
10
is
seconds,
gone.
guys. Here we go.
Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. Last Friday is NASCAR's in town for the Brickyard 400 this weekend. The TBT is racing up and down the court tonight. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and the Big Ten Network joins us now. And Mike, we were talking in the break, the WNBA All-Star Game coming up. And yesterday when Bob Kravitz was on with us, I said after, and it wasn't just after that performance, but she had something like 24 and 19 assists, breaking the all-time WNBA assist record in a game, period. Not for a rookie, not for somebody on a left leg or whatever, for everybody. And she's already the assist record holder. No, was it the sixth most assist leader in NCAA women's basketball?
Right. Yeah.
But the sheer fact that she's sixth on that list and scored the points that she does, she is going to obliterate the assist record in the WNBA, because every time she brings the ball up the floor, she ain't walking the ball up the floor. So you better, if you're on defense, you better have your head on a swivel, because let me tell you, she does, and she is looking constantly. She's like a shark, constantly looking and finding someone either in the seam, or she got caught up underneath and kicked it out the other day for a nice open three for her 19th assist, I think. But she she gets the ball to where it needs to be. It's uncanny.
It's really cool to see, because Jim, we watched her play for Iowa, and I wrote about her, and you talked about her, and we talked about her, and we were talking about how what a glorious thing this was, and what a magnificent player she was. And all we heard from the women's basketball establishment was not that great, not that special, and wait till she gets to the WNBA. Well, look what's happening. She is going out there and ringing up big numbers, and it's not just about her standing and chucking logo threes. It's about being a complete basketball player. I haven't looked honestly at the stats, but I watch just about every game I can, and so they played what 20. What they're something like. So I probably watched more than half of their games to this point. Certainly, I've done that, And one of the things that's notable to me is how rarely she comes off the floor. I mean, how many minutes is she averaging? I mean, every time I look out there, she's out there. And that's,
people are complaining.
really
IU fans that complain about Grace Berger. It's not so much that Grace isn't a good player. You have Caitlin Clark out there, and there's no reason for her to come off the floor. So there just isn't room for Grace Berger. And let's be honest, this is not a slight to Grace Berger. Look who she's behind. Look who she's behind.
She's averaging 35 minutes in a 40-minute game. I mean, that's staggering. And it says a lot about her value to the Fever. She's averaging 17 points and 8 assists and nearly 6 rebounds. And this is in the aftermath of Diana Taurasi sitting there and saying, "Oh, wait till she gets here. We'll take care of her." And they played the Mercury last week. And Diana wasn't healthy. I believe she missed that game, but they played previous to that, and she blew her off the floor. She blew Diana Taurasi off the floor. And the reality is that, look, the Olympic team is, the funny thing is, the Olympic team is the women's Olympic team. They haven't lost since like I was 3, right? They won every gold medal forever. But the reality is they didn't take the better player this time. There was a lot of feeling at the time that they named the team that they should have taken Caitlin on basically a futures bet. like to get her ready for when she has to carry the team, blah, 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 et cetera. And I was part of that. I thought that from a marketing standpoint, to get eyes on their games, and from a standpoint of getting her ready to be a great Olympic player, I thought that she should have been taken. But she's now made it clear, Jim, that she should be taken because she's one of the best players. She'd be one of the best players for a team with that many weapons, assets, however you want to phrase it. Some people don't like the word weapons. With that many offensive assets, she'd be a perfect player for that group, for that U.S. Olympic women's team. She'd be ideal to fit in and get everybody involved. It's what she does now. She still scores, but right now she is the constant up-tempo point guard at the WNBA level.
What does the MVP award, not for how it's really given out by popularity, and there's a lot that goes into it, seriously, but what is a league MVP supposed to be? Is it the most valuable player to their team, and that being the greatest value to a team? How, in your eyes, what is a league MVP?
Well, I haven't covered a ton of professional. I mean, I cover professional sports, but I haven't been a beat writer at the professional level. With the exception of 1 year I spent on Major League Baseball, all of my beat work and my work as a national beat writer has been in colleges. So it's a little different. Like, so when I was growing up, there was always a bit of, it was sort of like a taste thing, an esoteric thing, like not necessarily based on numbers totally. There was a value component to it. 1979, I'll go back to my past. 1979, Willie Stargell drives the Pirates to the NL East Championship and ultimately to the World Series, but that obviously doesn't play into it. But he drives them to the NL East Championship, and he shares the MVP award with Keith Hernandez, who had a much better statistical season because he was a full-time player. And Willie at that point was a part-time, full-time player. Like he was 120 games maybe, and Hernandez was probably over 150 that year. Something like that. So they share the award because it was impossible to overlook what Stargell's value was as a leader, as a motivational player, as a big game player, getting big hits in big games, that sort of thing. While Hernandez was producing stats and going out there day after day and getting RBIs and hits and that sort of thing. So I think that was a really good example of what it was when I was younger. You see now in Major League Baseball, and it's all just a stat thing. If you have X WAR, then you win. It's become ridiculous. It's one of the many reasons why I've lost my affection for baseball, or dimmed my affection for baseball. I think it's in the NBA. It becomes it's the problem with the NBA award is it becomes one of those things debated all year. Instead of like looking at it toward the end of the year, hey, who looks like an MVP? They're looking at it in October, and it's like, okay, who's going to be the MVP? And so I don't think you get a real read on it because it's you sort of have to fall in line. And I think that happens with the Heisman now too. It's not about it's about who has the most momentum and not necessarily who has the best season. So
and who's playing for the biggest branded
have
team?
Been devalued in that way.
Yeah, the Heisman really bothers me. It used to be so much fun, so incredible. I can go all the way back to Anthony Thompson, and I still truly believe that he lost the Heisman in that close race because Indiana misses a chip shot field goal to lose to Purdue and end up with a losing record. And only one man has ever won the Heisman off of a team with a losing record. And he happened to go to a Notre Dame school that was already, worldwide famous at the time. And that was way back in the 50s with Paul Hornung. But I still think Anthony Thompson deserved that Heisman because what he did, the competition that he played against and putting up the numbers he put up. He was playing for an Indiana team against Michigan and Ohio State and all these guys. And but that's neither here nor there. But
no, I think you're on the right track though, Jim. I think that's what's happened. And you see, I mean, I think Antoine Randall is another good example from Indiana. He was an amazing player because of all the different things he could do as a football player. And that player doesn't get considered any longer because he's not on one of the powers and he's not, first or second in the polls or whatever. When I was a Heisman voter in the early 90s and Gino Torretta won it, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine, except Gino Torretta's not very good. He's about the 17th best player on his team. But because he was the quarterback of the best team, he wins it. That's where you could see that the award sort of went completely off track. And it stayed off track at a mediocre player like Jason White at Oklahoma. Now, his team was great, and he did what was necessary. And mediocre is probably a strong word, but a not exceptional player like Jason White at Oklahoma. I think it was 2003. He led his team to a championship, to a bunch of wins and all that. But he was never a great player. That's why he didn't make it in the NFL. While Larry Fitzgerald was a great player, an individually great player with playing without a great quarterback, but you could see he was making phenomenal plays. So those are the kinds of things that happen with these awards all the time now. And even in the microcosm of a Final Four most outstanding player circumstance, we see often not the best player chosen. And I get a vote for that one. And I can tell you, I bat about 500 in terms of voting for the player that ultimately wins it. And I go back to 2008 when Derrick Rose was like literally almost in that tournament. He wasn't literally, but in that tournament, in the Final Four, those two games, he was twice as good as any other player who walked on the court in San Antonio that year. I mean, he was that far ahead of everybody else. But because his team did not win the championship game, he winds up not getting the award. It was silly. Mario Chalmers made the biggest shot, one of the biggest shots in college basketball history, no doubt. But he wasn't the best player on the floor. He wasn't the most outstanding. And he wasn't the most valuable because if Derrick Rose isn't on Memphis, Kansas wins by 20.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting a couple of years from now once Caitlin Clark really has her feet entrenched at that level. Because she still has issues with things, turnovers, huge for her. As a matter of fact, the game the other night, she was the biggest reason they had a chance to win, but she has the turnover at the end of the game that takes that shot away. If there was a top 5 in the league right now, she would have to be the point guard for that 5. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, Asia Wilson would be on there, of course. Sabrina Ionescu. As a matter of fact, in 3-pointers made on the season, Caitlin is behind only 2 players. One of those is Sabrina Ionescu, right, who had the back and forth, the contest with Steph Curry this year. So that tells you where she is already. So it's going to be fine. Indiana Fever fans, relax. The cavalry is coming. They just have to keep adding to that.
Yeah, when you talk about turnovers, I mean, when her teammates get better, and Aaliyah Boston's phenomenal, and they're going to be an amazing tandem as they continue to go forward. And they are now, but I mean, they'll continue to get better. But as Caitlin's other teammates continue to improve, Kelsey Mitchell doing great, but some of the others, some of the turnovers are the product of Caitlin being here and the other player not being on that level. We've seen that from time to time with great players. When Lionel Messi came to MLS for a while, it was hard for him because his teammates weren't quite ready for what he could bring. And I think that's some of what you're seeing with Caitlin right now in terms of the turnover. She sees a play that should be obvious to a high-level teammate. And when she gets more high-level teammates, that play will connect and the assists will go up, the wins will go up, and she'll just continue to improve herself.
I want to get to the TBT, but your boy Paul Skeens with the start in the All-Star game, first guy to start the All-Star game the year after he was drafted, signed a league record at the time, $9.2 million signing bonus, eclipsed yesterday by, of all teams, the Cincinnati Reds. So two of the teams that have been mired in mediocrity and are right now in the Central Division of the National League have spent almost $19 million in the last 2 years on bonuses for future talent, which is a good sign to see from these teams. I was shocked to see the Reds do that. I'm like, what? The Reds spent? I'm like, who the hell gave them $9 million? I'm like, wow, I figure they're selling popcorn money.
Well, remember, that's not a huge figure in the realm of baseball salaries.
It is. We're talking about the Cincinnati Reds here.
I know, but if you think about it, like 10 years ago, a dozen years ago, they gave Joey Votto over $200 million.
Yeah.
So the baseball bonuses that's a record. Look at them splashing the cash, but it's really not that much. It's 10 cents. It's 5 cents on the dollar what you have to pay to keep a superstar now. If you are lucky enough to have a superstar, I think the Pirates will find that out with Skeens, what he's going to cost and whether they can get in that game or not. If I were the Pirates, I'd be talking about extending him now and see, buy him out of his rookie years and his ARB years and see, and how far into the future you can keep him, because, if you don't, you're looking at having to pay him $500,000 eventually, something like that. That might be too much for them to even imagine.
Absolutely. The TBT gets started tonight. I'm not sure how closely you follow it, but it's just one of those fun things, a summer thing for people it gives a lot of people something to I guess, pull for. You've got here locally in the Butler Regional at the Hinkle Fieldhouse, you've got a team from Indiana, Purdue, Butler. Kyle Guy has a team in there as well amongst the 8 that are up there. Down in Louisville, they have a site. Louisville having a team amongst others. Over in Lexington, Kentucky, there's a site. So the bastions of college basketball now have kind of aligned, and it's still growing. This is the first year for Indiana to have a team. People have been looking for that, wanting that for a while. I mean, the TBT's been around for maybe a decade now.
Or at least.
But fun to watch and looking forward to that. And what a historic spot. I'm surprised I would be surprised if they eventually don't have the championship at Hinkle Fieldhouse, just maybe for the iconic venue type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. I don't know what they charge for a ticket, but it's not always easy to get into a Butler game because the Bulldogs draw pretty well. And, this might be an opportunity for somebody to get a good seat at Hinkle and find out what it's like to be in that building. It's never a bad idea to go to see a basketball game at Hinkle.
Absolutely. Mike, I appreciate you, sir. I hope you have a great weekend. What is going on for you, and what is your latest?
Well, we have a big project on the Olympics coming up. Very excited about that.
The Olympics.
Yes.
I've heard of those.
You've heard of those, yes. We have a project ranking. I think I can spill this secret. We will rank the greatest American Olympians. And we have a list as well as features about several of the athletes that were named. So that'll come out next week at sportingnews.com.
I guarantee you that. Well, I can't guarantee, but I don't know how number one is not. And oh my goodness, I am blanking on his name right now. The man from Oklahoma. Gee whiz, Native American from Oklahoma, Jim Thorpe.
Now I will tell you this, just so he is not number one. So you will. I think the number one choice is obvious in another way, but you'll be. It's a really entertaining. We had multiple meetings to talk this out, and we had some real good barroom arguments without the bar. And it should be a real fun project for people to consume next week.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to beat Mr. Phelps rather with the 87 gold medals that he won, or however many they were. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News Big Ten Network. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Jim, and thanks to John for doing a phenomenal job for all these years.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, Mike.
We've got lots more coming up, brought to you by Cheryl Sizemore and Remax Realty. For those looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, reach out to Cheryl. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Her 2 decades of experience may be the difference in getting the home you want or not. Up next, Chase Briscoe should be joining us. Looking forward to that. NASCAR driver currently for Stewart-Haas. Next year moving to JGR, Joe Gibbs Racing, where he will actually step up and Martin Truex Jr., who is retiring and been a very successful driver, and he could continue on. He's having a good year as well, but this is going to be a step up for Chase Briscoe, no doubt. As I'll say this when he joins us, or maybe, but it just seems like the leadership had gone away at Stewart-Haas. Tony Stewart has other interests. He's got married, and his girlfriend runs the drag races, and Tony Stewart is into that as well. So it's not that same hands-on like Joe Gibbs. He's there, man. He's in it. So it'll be a good move. Brian asked, and here he comes. So we'll take a break, and we'll be back with more after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home,
I'm going to mute you real quick, Jim. All right. Okay, you're back. I got you back. Oh, now he's muted himself. You got 1 minute, Jim. All right, 30 seconds. Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Freethink Apparel. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. It's a fast Friday as well because, as I've been talking about, NASCAR is in town, and on Saturday, you will have the Xfinity race up at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And then on Sunday, of course, The Cup Race brought to you by PPG, the Brickyard 400 returning to the Oval. And more importantly, returning to our show today, Chase Briscoe from just right down the road in Mitchell, Indiana, but obviously very successful on the Cup Series circuit. Chase, first of all, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's fun to be on here.
Always a pleasure to have you. A lot of changes has been happening for you. Didn't you just have a baby?
Got a 2.5-year-old boy at home, and now we got twins on the way. So it's certainly going to be a big life change here. They're due the 1st of October, but can honestly probably come at any time. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a big change for my wife and I, but one that we're definitely excited for. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be very fulfilling at the same time.
Yeah, you'll have to get those twins to take out that car they have at Indy, the double-decker car, where they can swap seats back and forth.
Yeah, for sure. I'll have to figure out something.
Looking forward to tonight. You will be in Bloomington for the first time in a while, probably, but a place where you cut your teeth on the dirt at the Bloomington Speedway. And not only that, you're just your name is one of a long line of uber successful NASCAR drivers that have graced that track. Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, but also guys like the Kensers as well.
Yeah, sure. It's going to be super cool just to get back to Bloomington. You know, every race car driver growing up has a home track, and my home track's always been Bloomington Speedway. It's a place where ever since I was literally a year old, going there and going with my family and watching my dad race, was obviously really, really successful there as a driver. And then when I started racing it became my home track. And so really growing up, right throughout the summer, all I knew was Bloomington Speedway. So it's been probably 10-something, I'd say right around 10 years since I've raced at Bloomington, and honestly even been to the Speedway. So I'm super excited to go back to this place where I have so many good memories, and just with my family, and honestly kind of laughs around that track. So it's going to be really cool to go back there and get in front of a ton of fans that I've been in front of for a long time. Just a ton of my family's going to go, a ton of my friends are going to go. So it's going to be a really special night, something that I'm really looking forward to. But yeah, certainly Bloomington Speedway has a ton of history. You know, a ton of obviously have driven there between Tony and Jeff, myself, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Casey Kane. I mean, the list goes on and on of guys that have raced there. So you know, the track's been there years now, so it's got a ton of history, and looking forward to getting back there.
And I'm sure they're looking forward to having you back. What is it about racing on the dirt that so many drivers like yourself, Kyle Larson, even back when Tony Stewart, he was a dinosaur because he did it longer than most guys kind of grow out of that just because of the wear and tear. But there are so many guys like yourself that did grow up. Jeff Gordon, one of those as well, but Kyle Larson and yourself that cut their teeth, and you still go back even constantly during the NASCAR Cup season.
Yeah, for me, you know, it's obviously my first love. You know, just sprint car racing and dirt racing in general is something that, you know, like I was just saying a second ago, it's been something I've been going to ever since I was a toddler. So for me, it's a huge passion, whether it's on the driving side or even on the ownership side, being an owner. You know, having a car out there and watching it compete. But, you know, also I feel like it really helps me over on the Cup side. As crazy as it sounds, you know, we're running 200 miles an hour in the Cup car, but when I go run the sprint car on the same weekend, it really slows down the Cup car. You know, just the sprint car, you know, Bloomington's a great example. You know, it's a quarter-mile racetrack, and you're running 9-second laps. Well, it feels like you're running 300 miles an hour just because of how fast things happen. So for me, it just really slows down the Cup car and it makes it a little bit easier for me. So that's one of the biggest reasons I go and do it on my Sundays.
That's amazing, because that was the very next question I was going to ask, was that I know it's completely different disciplines, but there has to be a carryover from that because so many guys do it. But also, does it help with road racing more than oval?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think the road racing side relates to quite a bit. Once you figure the tendencies of road racing, you know, the road course stuff, there's a ton of stuff, and just a ton of time in braking and under braking. That's something from a sprint car world you don't really get a whole lot of. You don't use the brakes a whole lot. especially a heavy braking kind of technique that you use on the road course. But everything else, from sliding the car around, keeping it hooked up on the X of the corners, all of that I feel like really relates to dirt racing when it comes to road course racing. So there's definitely a lot of crossover. To me, a sprint car is probably the hardest car in the world to drive and just be really fast in. The thing weighs 1,300 pounds and has plus horsepower. So the power to weight ratio is just absolutely insane. And they're a lot of fun to drive, but you definitely have to respect them. And they're just a very unique car, and certainly there's no other race car like it in the world.
And I mentioned early on that, of course, Bloomington Speedway has been graced with great names like yourself and Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart, the Kensers, and Stewart and Gordon, of course, Cup champions. Maybe that's a good omen, both being former Indiana guys. But that track is also known for the Briscoe name. Your grandpa has owned a team going way, way back. He's had a lot of different guys drive for him successfully, but none more so than your dad, your grandpa Richard, but your dad, Kevin, who won several hundred races as well.
Yeah, my family won the sprint car world. My grandpa Richard, he started owning sprint cars in 1976, and 500 wins as an owner. 14 sprint car Hall of Famers drive for him. So the history that he has himself is pretty incredible. And then my dad, like you were mentioning, over 200 wins himself. A ton of those wins came at Bloomington Speedway and championships and things like that. So it's the Briscoe name is certainly one. If you've gone to Bloomington Speedway, in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, even early 2010s, that you definitely probably saw a Briscoe car on the racetrack at Bloomington Speedway. Chances are it's probably in contention for the win. So it's going to be cool to have a Briscoe back at Bloomington Speedway tonight. My whole family going, like I said, my grandpa's going to go. He's probably not been there since I raced there. So, 4 generations, my son's going to go all at Bloomington Speedway tonight. It's going to be really special for our family. And just can't wait for it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, that is going to be a special night, of course. And with your grandpa having owned the race team early on, your father being a successful winning driver, obviously it had a huge impact on you. And so your career choice was kind of laid out. I mean, you weren't planning on going to cosmetology school, I'm pretty certain.
Yeah, for sure. The racing thing was something that from a pretty early age was something I was pretty passionate about and wanted to do. But truthfully, it's something that my dad tried to steer me away from. They didn't allow me to race at all. I think is how adamant I was. I mean, literally every day, constantly bugging him. Eventually, I got him to let me try it, and the rest is kind of history. But yeah, it was something that certainly wasn't really pushed on me. I naturally grew up around it, but they did kind of everything they could to get me to not do it. And obviously, it ended up working out that we ended up doing it and everything else. But was not, I would guess, because a lot of people probably would have due to the risk and just the amount of time and effort that kind of went into it. And I think he tried to kind of protect me from that, but at the same time, I'm pretty happy from an early age. That's all I wanted to do, and that was kind of the only thing that would really interest me. 6, 7 years old, that's all I wanted to do was be around cars, play with race cars, and things like that. It's kind of scary because I already see that with my son now. He's 2.5, but all he wants to do is be around race cars and play with race cars. So I might have another on my hands.
Well, that's something great, and that's what you see throughout NASCAR with a lot of the drivers I know, whether it's Kyle Busch or Ryan Blaney or whomever it might be. Last thanks. I know your time is limited, and I'll let you go. Talking about the return to the oval at Indianapolis for the Brickyard 400. You probably grew up watching it on the oval, and now you are returning to that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm super excited. Every race car driver dreams of getting to race at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but when it's your home track and you're from Indiana, it has even more significance. So for me, I've just always wanted to race at Indianapolis in the Cup Series, and whether it's the oval, the road course, the dirt track now they have, or even the parking lot. If you're racing at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it's special, but it's certainly different when you're racing on the oval. Just the history and the significance of the oval. So it's going to be really special. For me, when I came to the Cup Series, we had already moved on from the oval, so I didn't know if I was ever going to get an opportunity to run a Brickyard 400 or race it. I went through a lot as a kid. Obviously, watched it when I didn't go. So for me to be able to check that off the bucket list is going to be really, really special. And then to do it, driving for my hero and Tony Stewart, driving a 14 car in the Brickyard 400 is something never in a million years I thought I would get to do. So it's going to be a really special weekend for me personally, just to be able to do those things, and something I definitely don't take for granted. So looking forward to the weekend. Coming to Indianapolis and racing at IMS is by far my favorite weekend of the year. Just I get to see so many people that I know and friends and family, and even fans that don't really get to watch me anywhere else. They come down, so I have a huge support system there from really all of Lawrence County and just all the areas around us. So definitely looking forward to this weekend, and it's even cool that we're going to get to do it on the Oval.
Well, I could talk to you for an hour easily, but I know your time is limited. I look forward to seeing you tonight at Bloomington and talking to you more, and then having you back on the show at some point, because there's so much that we could talk about. But we wish you the best of luck Sunday, getting on the Oval for the first time, and we'll see you tonight.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I'll see you there. Definitely come on out if you're in there. It should be an awesome night.
Chase Briscoe joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with Alan Bestwick right after this break.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
Let me meet you real quick, Jim. Good morning, Alan.
How's it going?
Going good. Jim is finishing up with Chase, and then he'll be back in his seat momentarily.
Yep, no worries. No worries at all.
There we go.
Hey, Alan, how are you, sir?
All right, how you doing?
Oh, great. Just finished up with Chase Briscoe, and looking forward to seeing him tonight at the Bloomington Speedway.
Yeah.
So that's the first time in 10 years he's going to be out. How about this weather? This is unbelievable. This is like September.
That's perfect. It's perfect.
I mean, it's like this is even dream weather for September.
Yeah. I actually wore a jacket leaving the hotel this morning. I was like, wait, what?
I'm telling you, I left all the doors and windows open last night, and I went down to check, see what the temperature was, and it was like 65 or 6, and I'm like, yeah, baby.
Perfect.
How have you been?
Good. Just running around, taking care of business, and getting ready for this. It's very different. The procedures and things from the NASCAR point of view are all very different than they were even 5 years ago. So it's like you're constantly keeping up on it and trying to figure out, okay, what are we doing this week? So that's been a lot of my week.
Yeah, NASCAR seems to be the biggest changer in all of sports. On the fly, kind of.
I think
I don't mean that necessarily in a bad way. Sometimes they're reacting positively.
No, I think that it's probably because racing is one of the more complex sports there could be. Right? I mean,
yeah,
you're talking about
definitely always moving.
Right. You're talking about a machine and technology, and how often does a golf ball change? How often do they have to react to the change in a golf ball? Once a year? They move the tees back on a couple of holes on a course or something. Racing, this stuff, man, it evolves so fast, it's ridiculous.
All right, here we go, guys. 30 seconds till we're back.
Fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Rebesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Friday, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, a fast Friday as NASCAR is in town for the Brickyard 400, brought to you by PPG at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on Sunday. Of course, On Saturday, you have the Xfinity race as well. Practice and qualifiers going on today and tomorrow, I believe, as well. Alan Bestwick, a name and face that you are quite familiar with if you watch any type of motorsports in this country, whether he has worked for NBC, Turner, ABC, ESPN, CBS. Am I leaving any out, Ellen?
Probably if I stopped and thought about it, yeah. But what you're saying is I've been around for a while.
You're a needed man is what it looks like to me. Is how I view that. But and of all places, thank you first of all for joining us again. Was fortunate to run into Alan during Indy this year, and one of the unique things is where you're from, especially in connection with NASCAR. Not a lot of guys from the Northeast, but there are some. Joey Logano, one of the more famous ones, but you're from Rhode Island, I believe, and people don't think of that as a racing hotbed, but there's racing everywhere.
Yeah, and I think the hidden fact of NASCAR, where New England is concerned, and even IndyCar for that matter, there are so many people who work in the industry that are from the Northeast. First of all, you have to take into consideration the size of the state of Rhode Island, where I'm from. It's like one county here in Indiana, right? So you almost have to consider it more on a regional basis. Like New England as a whole is less. 6 states, but it's less square mileage than some states and half of some states. But the number of people working at a high level in the sport and that have come through the sport over the years, particularly broadcasters, is large. It started with Ken Squire, who's from Vermont. And let's see, he brought Jack Arute to MRN, NASCAR's radio network. And Jack brought Mike Joy. And Mike brought a guy by the name of John McMullen, who worked behind the scenes as the general manager and president of MRN for, 30 years. And John brought me in, and other people have followed. Kyle Rickey is one that comes to mind. I'm sure I'm missing some people, and I don't want to offend anybody. But, there's and engineers, mechanics, chief mechanics, spotters, you name it. The sport's full of New Englanders.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Like I said, you've got guys, Kyle Larson's from California. So the drivers are drivers. Jeff Gordon, originally from California, he was in Indiana, ended up growing up in Indiana, but that was because of racing. And so, you think of NASCAR and the old South, and that has pretty much been eroded away, to be honest with you. Now the sport is really is nationalized and internationalized with some of the drivers that are driving now and have tried to make that changeover from, say, IndyCar, which we've seen a difficult thing to do either direction. A lot of guys, if you're an IndyCar fan, everybody thinks, well, those are the best drivers in the world. And they are. But the NASCAR fans think these guys are the best drivers in the world. And they are. These disciplines are just so different. You can't just jump in one of those cars and be successful.
Well, Joe, I think that the difference there is time. So if you're an IndyCar driver and you want to go run a NASCAR race somewhere, having the time to get the test mileage in, to get comfortable with that kind of race car and that kind of racing is really the limiting factor. Testing is so limited, in all these sanctioning bodies as a means of trying to control expenses. You couldn't just, Joseph Newgarden expressed that he'd love to go run some NASCAR races, right? Well, he drives for Team Penske. They do have a NASCAR group on the other side of the building from his IndyCar team. But the testing is so limited and the time is so limited to give somebody like Joseph the opportunity to climb into a cup car and get the miles in to just get a basic feel for it is hard. For Kyle Larson, if Indianapolis did not have as much practice time as they have for the 500, it wouldn't have been as feasible to do what he did in the month of May, because he had time and testing allowances to get used to the machine. And even then, he'll still tell you, okay, he just sort of began at the end of 500 miles to get a feel for what it's like. So, I think that drivers today are more versatile than ever, but because of the time constraints and the testing constraints and the rules constraints of the various series, they don't get a chance to get a fair shot at seeing what they could do.
Now, this year, NASCAR is returning to the oval for the first time, I think since 2020, maybe. And there's a lot of excitement around this, partly because NASCAR has kind of struggled to keep the car and this track in concert the last several years for various reasons, whatever. But it's one of those crown jewel places that you need that success. I don't want to say need it, but you sure want it at a place like Indianapolis. And coming in this year, NASCAR bringing a new car with the next gen car, there seems to also be a lot of excitement around seeing this car on this track.
There is. I think it's an opportunity. This car performs differently. It's built differently. Its aerodynamics are a lot different. The electronics, the tires, the whole thing is different than the prior generation of car was. That said, Jim, I have this thing when people get into a discussion about NASCAR at the Brickyard. First of all, the NASCAR Cup Series belongs on the Indianapolis Oval. Period. That's what makes it a crown jewel race, was seeing the best NASCAR drivers on the greatest race course in the world. But if you go back and you watch every Indianapolis 500 and every Brickyard 400, there's become this kind of narrative that I find distasteful. It's like every race is supposed to be, 3 wide for 200 laps or 160 laps around the racetrack and a photo finish every time. That's just not racing. It's just not racing.
It's not realistic.
This race on Sunday won't look any different than any of the other Brickyard 400s. Go back and look at Jeff Gordon's win. Everybody remembers that 1994 victory in the first Brickyard 400 as a tremendous race. And it was a hard-fought race. It was a difficult race. Passing was tough. The pit crews, the strategy, the track position. It wasn't a photo finish. The guy chasing Jeff Gordon to the line wasn't pushing him down the main straightaway, bumper to bumper. Nor will Sunday be. Sunday will be one of the hardest races a NASCAR Cup Series driver will contest all season long. If you look at this racetrack and you look at the history of who's won at this racetrack in NASCAR competition, all of the winners either are in the NASCAR Hall of Fame or will be in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. This racetrack is hard. It's one of the hardest in the world, and it will demand the best from the driver, the car, and the crew to win. It will demand perfection on Sunday. That doesn't necessarily, Jim, that does just to pay. I know it's a long point, and I'm kind of sermonizing on you.
No.
But it doesn't mean it's not a great race. It does mean, man, it's hard to win. And when you've won this thing, you have done something phenomenal.
Yeah, I watch a lot of races, and if people are just casual fans, they probably don't understand that the differences in all of those tracks are huge on the track because of what you're able to do and what you're not able to do. And I don't have the opportunity to listen to a lot of other people, whether it's any kind of show, podcast, whatever. Dale Jr. is one of those I do because I love learning, and it's always a learning experience. And listening to him talk about Indy, as a matter of fact, he talked about if you looked at the track from, say, a Google Maps photo, it looks completely symmetrical. But he said, but I guarantee you that there is a difference between turns 1 and 3 and 2 and 4. He said turn 1 was always the hardest turn. 2 was easier. 3 was easier yet, but 4, he's loose again. And so there are just, the differences are subtle, but when you're driving 190 miles an hour, that's like hitting a golf ball 1 inch off the wrong direction.
Yeah, and so I come back to that old Olympic term, degree of difficulty, right? The degree of difficulty of this racetrack is the highest of the season. And it's a huge challenge Sunday, and that's why the best of the best win here.
And the weather is going to be spectacular and unbelievable. This is like late September weather in July, which just doesn't happen. And it's going to be like this all week and all weekend, which means that's great. First of all, I'm sure NASCAR and Mr. Penske would like to see that because of a crowd boost, probably. But more importantly, this is going to affect the track, the cars, and the race.
All in a positive fashion. It will affect them. So the circumstances around us, if you like that, if you like signs, if you like karma, cosmic things, all of the circumstances are pointing to, hey, this is how it's supposed to be. The Brickyard 400 on the big oval in perfect weather with the stars of NASCAR having to fight with every ounce of skill they've got to try and take a very prestigious win. I can tell you this, to a person, the drivers, the teams are thrilled this race is back on the oval, and they can't wait for the weekend.
Yeah, that's all I've heard, really have. And like I said, again, they're also excited for the next gen car to see that. The loss of Stuart Haas is, it would seem to have been a blow to NASCAR, but those charters were snatched up relatively quickly. The drivers are going to be going to other places. You've got other younger teams that are rising up, Trackhouse, Spire, Michael Jordan's team. We'll talk about him in a minute. Can he be the next Joe Gibbs? But local contact Chase Briscoe is going from Stuart Haas to JGR, Joe Gibbs Racing, next year. He could not have found a better situation sliding into that 19 car of Martin Truex Jr., who's retiring.
Yeah, evolution. It's no different in racing than it is in sports, right? I mean, the Brooklyn Dodgers don't exist anymore. They played in Los Angeles since 1957. Junior Johnson Racing, Junior Johnson's team is one of the dominant teams in NASCAR in the 80s and 90s. It doesn't exist anymore. It's evolution. And, if you look at Tony Stewart, his life has evolved greatly in the last 5 years, and he's got other things he needs to pay attention to instead of being a NASCAR team owner as well as all this other stuff. So, his partner in that team, Gene Haas, has said, and there's going to be an announcement tomorrow here about that he's going to continue, revive his own race team and continue competing with that. But Tony needs to do other things with his life. It's time for him. Good for him. It's good to see that the drivers are landing in other places. Those charters are valuable. It's good to see that they've created some value for departing team owners that didn't used to exist before. And it's just the natural evolution of the game.
I mentioned Joe Gibbs. He's gone from bowls to cups, winning Super Bowls and then chasing cup wins. And he's done it successfully, which is a mind boggler, just because what are the odds that someone can have such success at the highest level of professional football, maybe the toughest sport that there is, and then go have success in a completely different direction, NASCAR racing. Now you've got Michael Jordan involved, not in the same way. Joe Gibbs is a very hands-on guy. Michael Jordan is still learning and not, but he seems to be in it for the long haul.
Michael's into it. He's into being a team owner. His partner, Denny Hamlin, he's into competing. Yeah, if nothing else, right? Michael Jordan is one of the fiercest competitors ever, and his appetite for competition and competing in NASCAR has certainly been whetted, and he's very much involved in what happens with that race team and what they're trying to do going forward. You mentioned Joe Gibbs. Joe will be the first to tell you, and any of these successful teams will tell you, what makes the sport go are people. Roger Penske will tell you. Everybody can get a hold of the same parts and pieces, and everybody's using the same tires and gasoline and so on. But the difference in this sport are people. And the most successful team owners are the ones who attract the right people and treat those people in such a way that their productivity never wavers. It's always pushing forward. Joe did that as a football coach. He's done that as a team owner very successfully for many years. Rick Hendrick is just, he'll tell you over and over again, it's about the people. Roger Penske will tell you it's about the people. And, for Michael and Denny, they've gone about putting together their team by looking for people with specific qualities and then working to foster and cultivate that.
What are your responsibilities going to be this weekend?
I'll be talking like I usually do. So Vince Welch and I are going to work the public address this weekend, starting here in just a little while. And it's a lot of fun. This place is so big that the Penske organization understands the presentation in the house is important. And so basically they treat the house presentation like a television broadcast of its own. It's a network television broadcast done for just the people in the grandstands. So we have a full fleet of cameras. We have pit reporters. We have an entire control room on the property. And my job is to do the best I can to inform the people in the grandstands of what's going on, even in places they can't see with their own eyes on the speedway, and make sure that all the excitement of the race is being delivered to them wherever they are.
It makes a huge difference hearing guys like you on the PA system. It makes it so much more. It's like getting to listen to radio, the radio broadcast, but not. And there's nothing I love more than like the MRN crew. Listening to how they almost choreograph and synchronize those races. It's incredible because they rarely miss a beat. And I'm talking about, if you have never listened to a broadcast, there's up to 5 different guys if it's a road course or something, and they are handing the baton off with a split-second synchronicity, and it's amazing.
It's a well-refined system. MRN started in 1970. Great, again, good people put in position to succeed. And they all keep on doing it with one thing in mind. There can be bad races. There can never be bad broadcasts.
Well, that's why they have great guys like you, and then that's what keeps it so exciting. What are you looking forward to most this weekend? Last thing before we let you go on the oval, who is? I don't want to say your favorite. You're not on the broadcast per se, so you can pick a favorite. Or 3. Give me 3 drivers so that doesn't pin you down.
Jim, pick the biggest names in the sport. The people at the
Ryan
very
Blaney.
top. The people at the very top of their game.
Pocono.
Yeah. They ran well. All the Penske cars ran well at Pocono. Look for guys at the top of their game to be at the front of the field. This place demands excellence. So, sure, Blaney, Joey Logano. I would.
Denny Hamlin wants to win this race badly.
Denny Hamlin would be very high on my list of people to look for. The Hendrick guys, Kyle Larson, would be very high on my list of people to look for. The guy, Chase Elliott.
Chase Briscoe.
Yeah. The guys at the top of the game.
Season, but yeah.
The guys at the top of the game.
He hasn't had the season they wanted to, but what a Cinderella story that would be for him. And with Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon both having won it, maybe it's a good omen.
Wonder if Chase would climb the fence if he wins.
I think he would climb he'd climb the pole there at the start finish line. Alan Bestwick, I can't thank you enough, man. Always so gracious with us with your time. And you are a true professional. We look forward to having you on again in the future. Great, have a great race weekend, I should say, at the IMS. And I look forward to seeing you out there this weekend.
Yes, sir. And everybody, come on out. The weather's going to be perfect. It's going to be a really great race on Sunday.
Absolutely. Alan Bestwick joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio as he prepares to get the Brickyard 400, brought to you by PPG, along with the Xfinity race as well up at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's going to be a great weekend for racing people. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Alan, I cannot thank you enough. Again, man, you were always incredibly gracious. Seriously and sincerely, I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. You have a great one. We'll see you out here.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Take care.
You bet.
All right, you'll be open here, and then Derek Elston at 10:10.
Beautiful. Did I send that to Derek? Just making sure. Oh yeah, sent to Derek. Yes, sir. I better send him a text. Link in your email. Okay, peoples. The Tipton Tornado. We're going to talk some TBT. He's got a lot of teammates on there. What are you doing this weekend?
What am I doing this weekend? You know, I'm actually just kind of taking a weekend to enjoy myself, I guess. I don't really have any big plans. I'm going to watch TBT. I know I'm going to do that tonight. And then if they keep winning, I'll, watch them on Sunday. So those are really the only things I have potentially planned for this weekend.
Beautiful. That's lovely. That's wonderful. What is that, velvet?
That's pretty good.
Oh, you know that line?
I don't know what it's from, but I'm familiar with the line.
Coming to America.
Oh, okay.
Eddie Murphy's playing an old white Jewish dude in the barbershop. One of my favorite movie scenes of all time when those barbers are in there. And at the end, he's in there rubbing. That's beautiful. What is that, velvet? It's I think it's a lion. It's a lion, a real lion.
All right, here we go.
The waiter brings the prune, he's some spade. The waiter brings the soup, brings the soup. What's wrong with the soup? Soup too hot. That's the spoon. That's the spoon. For 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Fast Friday. It has already been a great show, but lots more coming up as the Tipton Tornado. Derek Elston will join us in the next segment. We've had Chase Briscoe, Mike DeCourcy, Alan Bestwick on already. Man, what a way to end this week and this Friday. And, of course, it is our last day with John as he is going to be moving on. So wanted to make sure we got that in before he kicked Joe Lewis's ass. That's just in the break. I was goofing on one of my favorite movies. Golly, was Coming to America.
It's an impressive impression. For sure.
Me and a friend of mine this is a long time ago when we were younger, but every night, it didn't matter. Every Friday and Saturday night when we would come back, we're watching Coming to America. It didn't matter. And I know that movie frontwards and backwards. And that group of characters they developed, those barbershop guys, oh my God, it kills me. That and when they're at the not at the church, but at that community thing, and one of them's they're putting money in the donation basket and donation. Oh man, I thought it was a trash, man. they're just hilarious. But that's me just going off on a tangent. My goofy.
Did
stuff.
you ever watch the sequel that I heard was not very good?
It was horrible because all it was in essence almost a complete regurgitation of the first movie. But not as good. It's like, dude, there's no different. It just wasn't. That was weak.
I hate that I feel like all new movies nowadays, and then all is a stretch.
Greatest part of all time. What about? Oh no, Joe Louis the greatest. Joe Louis the greatest part of all time. Joe Louis.
It seems like every new movie is either a sequel or a remake.
No, it was a sequel, supposedly.
No, I'm saying, but nowadays it feels like anything that comes out that's new is either a sequel to an older movie or it's a remake of an older movie.
Yeah.
You have some originals, but
there are very few that get better.
Do you know they're making a Happy Gilmore too?
They really don't need to do that.
Exactly. That's the thing. You don't need to make another Happy Gilmore.
Because to me, that's gratuitous. Because there's no story there. It's just one of those goofy movies. But whatever. Name me a movie that got better.
Top Gun Maverick.
Nope.
The second one. Yeah.
That is the only. And did it get better? I don't know that it got better. It did more, but I don't know that it got better.
My biggest complaint
My
biggest complaint, and I mean, the movie did what it did and it was fine, but my biggest complaint with Top Gun Maverick is, and sorry for the spoilers if you haven't seen this movie by now, but
it's too
I
late.
feel like they should have let Maverick die in the, I don't know, did you see it, Jim? The Maverick's in one of the final scenes, it looks like Maverick.
Tom Cruise, man. What are you talking about?
In one of the final scenes, it looks like he's sacrificing himself, but he ends up not. And it doesn't sour the ending because the ending is a good ending, but it does kind of create this awkward transition to the ending because the viewer thinks that he's dead, then you realize he's not, and then it's just, it's just not, it doesn't have the same emotional pull, I feel like. But either way, we'll stop talking about movies. We can get on to something else.
That's okay. Well, we'll talk about TV because this week Bob Newhart passed away. And
I saw that.
Bob Newhart is before John's time, but he was 94. He was in Horrible Bosses. He was a deadpan, drop dead deadpan comedian and was funny as all get out. He had 2 television series. The first one was, I believe, the Bob Newhart Show, in which he played a psychiatrist in his real hometown of Chicago and was married to a woman who played by Suzanne Plachette. That was a successful series. And then that ended. And then 4 years later, he was in another series called Newhart, but completely different premise. He owned an inn in Vermont, and had these different characters. It is the greatest season or series finale in TV history because do you know what they did for their ending?
What'd they do?
They show him in the second series. There's a storm, whatever, and he's sliding down a door and he goes to sleep. And then the next thing you see, he's waking up. And he turns over and starts talking. He goes, "You won't believe this craziest dream I had." And Suzanne Plachette, his wife from his previous series, rolls over and says, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "I had this crazy dream. I was an innkeeper in Vermont." And so it leads the viewers to believe that series was just a dream because they're going back to a whole different series. You want to talk about utter genius. It was freaking hilarious and just genius, but we're getting off subject, but that's okay. We got a little bit of time before the Tipton tornado joins us.
Speaking of the TBT, though, who do we think is going to be the top performers for Assembly Ball in the TBT?
Man, Troy Williams should be up there.
I think Juwan Morgan will be.
Oh,
top
I'll tell you
shooter.
who. I'll tell you who's going to be pissed off is Noah Vonleh.
Yeah.
Did he ever make it back to America?
It's a good quote. You can ask Derek when we bring him on here in just a moment. He's in the green room if you want to go ahead and take this break.
Yogi Ferrell as well. Yep, we've got more coming up. We'll be back with the Tipton Tornado. Derek Elston right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the Yeah, you like that, didn't you?
No, I'll never, ever, ever be able to get away from that.
Dude, and embrace it.
I do embrace it, but just
embrace it because you just said you're never going to be able to get away, but embrace that sucker. I'd start selling Tipton Tornado t-shirts.
I missed that boat. I probably should have.
You know what? That boat's still circling the harbor, baby.
Maybe. I've got one. One of my buddies made one for me, and I have got some interest on it. Clayton Anderson wants one really bad. So if you got somebody who can make some shirts.
I got somebody that can make you some shirts.
What's going on, guys?
How have you been?
Oh, my God.
Right. I'm writing this down for real. Derek Elston.
Hey, if we could all share in some profit, I wouldn't be mad about that.
I feel like last time you were on here, Derek, it was a while ago, but you all were joking about the Sizzler. And I don't remember what the context was. We were talking about that earlier.
Hey, listen, I've had 2 kids since then, so I don't know.
I'm just saying, I don't either. I don't remember that. I'm like, oh, man.
Oh,
how have you been, brother?
It was probably from like White Man Can't Jump when I was on here with Verdell. I'm sure. Something like that.
How have you been?
Dude, I've just been busy, man. Life is nuts. 2 kids, trying to figure it out. Work. I took a new job with Merchants Bank of Indiana. And so on top of that, I threw in I've got a 9-month-old, but she was a 2-week-old when I took the job. So it's just been controlled chaos.
You look like you're handling it well, brother.
I'm doing my best. I've learned to go through life with a smile on my face regardless. So that's
hopefully the new job will let you join us a little more often during the season, especially.
Please do. You know, Christian and I got that podcast, so we get out there and do that. That's fun, man. That's fun.
I've had Christian on and love having both of you on.
It'd be fun. I love getting back together with him. That's why I'm glad we're doing it, because I hadn't seen him for years, and then all of a sudden the Big Ten reached out to us for a podcast opportunity, and so during the season I get to see him at least once every week, so it's a blast.
It looks like the TB team could use you, man. Vonleh is questionable, which I assumed. I'm not even sure if he's back from China yet.
Man,
and Jordy's out.
Did you see that? Wait, Jordan's out?
Yeah, that's what somebody just
10
said.
10 seconds, guys. Here we go.
To perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Fresh Fork in Bloomington. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. It is a fast Friday. We've got NASCAR racing. We've got basketball. Derek Elston. We've got the Tipton Tornado. Just kidding. But he is a tornado in life because he's got it all going on with 2 kids, a 9-month-old, a new job, keeping up with what his former teammates are doing with TBT. There's a lot swinging, brother.
I'm telling you what, man. I'm telling you, talking before this, man, life is just absolutely going at a blur right now with 2 kids at home and trying to figure out what's going on with IU and then the TBTs coming on and just trying to live my own life with my wife, man. I got a lot. Going.
I would ask what prevented you from playing, but I don't have to. I already got that answer pretty quickly already. That is one of the things that there's a window for certain guys to be able to do things like participate in the TBT or whatever. it is short. And like Jordy, he had his run across the pond as well, and he could have kept going. Don't get me wrong, but the life change came at the right time, and sometimes you can't pass opportunities up. So his life has definitely changed. I mean, he's got 16 kids now.
You would think that's the thing. When I saw he was announced as a player coach, the first thing that came in my head was, how did Aubrey let him get out here and do this? The season, I tell you firsthand, man, that season, basketball season, once the season's over with, the hardest part of the season starts with recruiting. So I'm thinking, all right, well, at least in my situation with my wife, it was like, okay, I wasn't on the road recruiting. We got to pump the brakes a little bit and try to enjoy each other, because hell, half the time you don't get to see your wife or your significant other or your family for about 8 months out of the year. So when the season's over with and I see Jordan come around, I'm like, my goodness, man, poor Aubrey. She deserves a seat at the front row somewhere.
Absolutely. And it has been so difficult to get this Indiana team together. Fans have wanted it for a long time. The TBT's been around for like a decade, and now it is together, kind of. The difficult thing is keeping that thing going. As you see, there's always issues with players. Jordy is out apparently for, I'm not sure why. Noah Vonleh, I don't know if he's back in America yet. He has really had a situation going on over in China.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody had seen that story, but what he's got going on right now with the Shanghai Sharks, man, I've been following it on Instagram, and that's the thing that's scary. You got a situation like that, that no one thinks is ever going to come about. But that's kind of the life, man. That's the life over there. You've got 2 breaks during the season. And unfortunately, it happened to me. We had actually lost sponsorship dollars when I was in Portugal. And I get a phone call after a game saying we need to meet after practice the next day. And I'm sitting down there and we're talking about my contract, and my agent's on the phone telling me don't sign anything. So, if they want to release you, they can. If they just want to quit paying you, there's some FIBA rules with that, but it's just a pain in the ass, to be honest with you. And like, his situation is scary. If you remember a couple of years ago, Mo Creek's situation was scary when he had to go through pretty much a bombing, a war. So
Ukraine.
Yeah, in Ukraine. So it's like that life, man. It's fun to travel the world, but when you get in situations, Verdell Jones, he got promised these big dollars over in Greece, and I don't even know what happened with that situation. They just quit paying him. So, it's just, there's some weird things that happen on over there, and it's fun, but you get on a team that doesn't really have your back like they say they do. It's a toss up to what happens to you. And that's scary.
And you're in a whole nother country, especially when you're in China. You're not even really in another country. You're on another planet almost.
Absolutely. And for them to, kick him out of the whole. I'm watching this, and if you're falling from home, but like, they got him in a cot in the middle of the lobby. Like, what is that all about? That tarnishes basketball for you right there. Just because I don't know how someone treats an American player like that, or any player like that. Really, it's scary, and it's something that, geez, man, I'm hoping. I don't know if he's back in the States, but I sure hope he is.
We're talking about a guy who just 2 years ago maybe was playing in the NBA.
Yeah. The Celtics. He was. I don't know if there was an injury or what, but I know he was still giving it a shot. And it's Noah Vonleh. The guy's 27 years old, 26. Like, he's in the prime of his years, and over there, I don't blame him. The Shanghai Sharks, they can pay you good money. So I don't know what the situation happened. I don't know what the situation is, but that make you not want to go overseas anymore. I promise you that.
Yeah, a little closer to home, Indiana has done a great job getting guys drafted in the NBA in the last few years. Jalen Hood-Schifino, Trace Jackson Davis, who had a great rookie year. Now it's Khalil Ware, who is playing summer league ball and having a great run with Miami, looking really good.
Really good. Yeah, I love watching Khalil and what he's doing in the summer league. And, Trace is one of those guys that I was around quite a bit before I took off. And Jalen, I've got Brian's ear down there, Brian Walsh's ear as an assistant. And he tells me that there's there's not a guy who would ever outwork this kid. I mean, you talk about a professional in college. The guy lived in the gym. He took care of his body. He was never out and about messing around. Like, it was all business for him. And I think the biggest part for me when I hear these things, and you know, obviously you see guys get drafted, is I think it's so big for not only recruits, and I know we lost a good one, but when recruits see it, they hear it. And even in the NIL, when you have big name guys coming into the portal and we've got an opportunity to get them, when they see success that they've seen through Indiana these last couple of years, I mean, it's nothing but you put your smile on your face because you know, all right, instead of, you know, we're in his top 5. Now you're like, okay, if we're in the top 5, we've got a serious chance to get these guys. And, you know, whether it's NIL dollars or it's just, you know, the path that Woody can take you to, it's exciting. And the program right now, especially with this team that we've got coming in on paper, they just look unreal. And for once in the summer, because I talk to Brian a lot, and every team, you know, every summer is a great summer. I don't know if there's a college basketball team out there that has a bad summer. But this one in particular, it's got me super excited for next season.
Yeah, they have just an abundance of talent in every position.
Yes.
They have really beefed up the guard row with Kanan Carlisle and Miles Rice, Umar Ballo, who is just a double machine. I expect Mackenzie Mbako to take that step up. He has to. He wants to get to the league. This is the year for him to make that jump between his first and second year. They've got some new guys in there as well and some veterans. Luke Goody also shooting. They should have everything they need to have a very successful season.
Oh, there's no doubt. I think the hardest part of this season, and I talk with a lot of my buddies and former guys that I played with, I think the hardest part of this season is going to be, you know, who plays where and how much minutes do they get. I think that's the biggest question. And we ran into it with our senior year team. I ran into it my first year on staff when we won the Big Ten championship in 2016, the 15-16 season. And that's a great problem to have. No longer are you going to, well, I mean, you're going to, obviously there's going to be situations where, you know, guys may have to give you 36 minutes. I see Mbako, if he wants to take that next step, and if we're going to do what we think we can do this year, I see him putting in a lot of minutes, but he's also the player that could do it. I'm never going to be mad if Mbako is off the floor, but I mean, you've got rotational guys, and I don't think we've had that in, you know, 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah, the depth is definitely there. The one thing that Indiana, in my opinion, has to do this year is they have to be better at shooting and making the three. You just simply can no longer beat teams 2 to 3. The math just doesn't work.
No, and Mbako showed a little spurt of it throughout the season. Obviously, having a big like Khalil who could step out and shoot the three is going to be huge. I don't see Ballo doing that any, but also when you add in Luke Goody, I mean, I was there recruiting Goody, and you know we wanted him bad, and he took off and went to Illinois and has had great success there. So if he can take it up a notch from Illinois, you know, you've got Galloway who goes on spurts. Again, I think that two-headed monster with Mbako and Goody, I think that's what you need. You need at least 2, and I think we've got 2.
Absolutely. And it should be a fun season for Indiana. Even Indiana football is the excitement is there for that, Derek. And I know that's not something that happened during your time at Indiana.
No, definitely not my time. I think the only time I've really actually been like, holy crap, this is fun to watch is during COVID when nobody was in the stands and we had the run that we went on. But, you know, kudos to Sig, man. I don't know. I didn't know much about him. I didn't even know he was an Alabama guy until all of this presser came out and he came to Indiana. I didn't realize that. The guy's a winner. I'll give him that. He's saying all the right things. He's doing what he needs to do to get everybody to get on board. And from what I hear around these parts here in Carmel, a lot of people are on board. And, you know, a little bit of it is going to be the previous staff schedule. I think this year's schedule is going to favor IU pretty well. But if you can just see some guys who can break out and give you some highlight plays, I don't care who you're playing with. I mean, that's fun to watch. So as long as he can keep it going and win, like he says, he's going to have a ton of success because these guys are begging for football.
as busy as you are, man, you're up to date on everything that's going on all around. You are a well-rounded individual.
I'm well-rounded with Indiana. And the beautiful thing is my daughter is so on board with it. My oldest, Parker, she's 2.5, and she'll come down in my jersey and say she wants to be a Hoosier and she wants to do some cheers like they do on TV. So anytime I've got it on TV, she's all with it. So
That's amazing.
It's fun. It makes it
that has to be just incredible for you. I mean, just those moments of just sitting there has to be incredible.
Sitting there, or her coming down in her making her way down the stairs in one of my jerseys is just the funniest thing I've ever seen. And for her to say, "I'm going to be a Hoosier, Daddy," is just kills me.
Man, you've got to get that on tape. That's a commercial right there for Merchants Bank.
Maybe I've got. Hey, if you want to sell that, we could sell that all day. Listen, she's 99 percentile in height. That should be a shock to nobody. 96. The girl has more definition in her shoulders than I ever thought I could ever get as a player, as a guy who goes to the gym 4 days a week now. Like, she's ripped at 2.5, and she knows it too. So, Terry Morin, you might have to make a call.
That's hilarious. Well, when Indiana women's basketball rolling, the WNBA is brought in a lot of excitement. And I have to say, the Caitlin Clark effect is real. And I can say that because I have found myself a couple of times finally sitting down and stopping whatever, working at like 7 or 7:30, grabbing something to eat and turning the TV on, and a game happened to be on. And I'm like, oh. And so I end up watching the damn thing and falling in. And I'm like going, and after doing that twice, I'm like, okay, this is real, because I would have never even stopped to consider watching that game.
Yeah, and the Angel Reeses of the world and everybody who is giving her a bunch of shit, man. I like, listen, when the tide rises, all boats float. I don't understand what the backlash is with this. Like, listen, I mean, as an Indiana fan, we hated when Caitlin Clark, or we loved it, depending. Loved it when Caitlin Clark, hated it when Caitlin Clark came into the building. But no matter what, eyes were on that game. And you're right, man. To have Caitlin Clark get me to turn the channel away from golf, a U.S. Open, dude, that takes some serious doing. And you're right. I catch myself doing the same thing. Like, hey, let me just check in and see how she's playing. And you'll get going, and 5 minutes in, she'll hit a 30-footer, and you're like, damn, okay, this is fun to watch. And I don't understand why people are hating on her, because, I mean, yes, I get it, man. All eyes are on her, and Angel Reese thinks that she's owed something that, maybe she deserves, maybe she doesn't. I don't know, and I don't care. When eyes are, it's like, this is the whole thing. Coach Green used to do this. He used to say, we'd come to practice, especially our senior year. We'd have, whatever, 10, 20 GMs, scouts, you name it, coaches, NBA coaches. And yes, they were looking at Cody. They were looking at Vic. They were looking at Christian, whoever. But they were also looking at you. And so if you had an opportunity to shine some light on yourself, maybe a GM goes, hey, who's this guy? He's having a good practice. And that's all it takes, is just one opportunity to have eyes on you. And then, boom, you're rolling. So I don't understand it, but, I think she's starting to get the respect that I think she deserves. And like you said, man, the WNBA is fun to watch. Well,
to back up your point even more so, not that you need me to back up your point, but Tom was recently on with us, I think last week. Is always gracious with his time with us, but it was one of the more, it got more responses of just people being positive. And I think it was because we didn't talk basketball nearly as much. And as a matter of fact, at the end, he's like, we didn't even get to talk recruiting. But one of the things I did talk about with him was OG Anunoby. Yeah. He finds him looking for somebody, going to watch somebody else, but sees OG, who was and this, I just saw this the other day, 272nd ranked player in his class.
Yeah. And
272nd.
I thought he was higher than that. Like in the 400s is what I thought he was. Listen, OG was one of those guys, and a lot of people don't even, well, their memory goes back that far, but we went out to Maui that year. We won the Big Ten championship. OG wasn't even playing. He wasn't even seeing the floor. We were getting beat. It was, and all of a sudden he has a couple breakout games, because he always had that. I mean, he always had the ability in practice, especially. He was always on the second team to start, and there'd be a couple steals, a couple dunks. I mean, he just made it look so easy. He was gliding in it, and it was almost like to a fault to where we thought, like, man, this kid might be a little bit lazy. But that was just OG. Like, he knew when to turn it on. He knew how to turn it on. He always told me he had turned it on, but you didn't really see that on the court. It didn't look like he was going fast. It didn't look like, and then, you strap a heart rate monitor around him, and, oh man, his heart rate's through the roof. So he was going hard, but it just didn't look like it when you were watching him. And especially when you watch the film, it's like, OG's out here jogging. Well, he's not. He's just long. He's athletic as all get out. And he just made the game look so easy. And after that tournament, we started saying, like, we got to give him more minutes. And then, I mean, his career is his career. I mean, everybody saw that. And now, I mean, to sign a contract that he signed with the Knicks, clearly everybody else sees it too.
You like reach out. Hey, buddy, how about a little loan here? I could.
That time I bought you Chipotle.
Exactly. Yeah. And we'll pay back. And you could be his banker.
I could be. I wish hey, listen, that's, you put that salary on 5% in the money market with me. You're talking $6. Boom. Mic drop.
Life security, baby. Life security.
That is it. That is it.
Will you be able to head out? I know you're busy with the family and all your other commitments. Will you be able to make it out to Hinkle Fieldhouse?
Yeah, I'm not going to be out there tonight, and it's unfortunate. And I had a little schedule issue. So the fact that Jordan's not going and now Noah Vonleh's not going scares me a little bit. But I'm assuming we get the job done. I'm hoping we get the job done. So if we do, I'll be at the next ones. But tonight I will be at multiple birthday parties watching it through my phone.
Are these very, very young birthday parties?
Actually, no.
Wow. I thought this was going to be like a little cake and Vince Vaughn or what's his name from Saturday Night Live got shot in the neck. Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell. You're crazy. But no, we've got a group of friends that we all just wanted to get together. There's a bunch of us that have summer birthdays, and so we decided to host the celebration over at our house. So unfortunate planning by me, but I'm assuming we'll get the job done and I will be at the next one. The thing is, I'm a little upset because, I've done 2 seasons of Beyond the Big Ten podcast, Ball from Assembly Hall with Christian, and I didn't get a call. I didn't get a text. Hey, you want to join the staff? And I get it, man. They're all fighting for $1 million. So I'm just another I'm another piece of the cake that they'd have to pay, but not to get that call. Ooh, boy, that hurts a little bit.
I hear you, man. Next year, we've got to get Christian on the horn and say, hey, how about a little something for the effort?
You would think, or even
he's supposed to be the GM.
Well, I don't know how he's not GM player. Like the guy works out now.
I wondered about that too.
He's in great shape. I can't believe I haven't seen Jordan work out, and I go down there often, and we talk, and you got the gym right under you, Jordo. Oh, I don't go work out. So I'm like, but you're going to be a player coach. Well, Christian's the one who looks like a player coach.
Well, they may need him now, Derek.
Yeah, no kidding. I didn't realize all these no-shows were coming. So I don't know. We'll see. But I think we've got a good crew. I mean, the reason why I want to go down there the most is, obviously the excitement and watching a game in Hinkle Fieldhouse is literally incredible. I've got a buddy of mine who's on staff. I worked with him at IU. Andrew Lentz is on staff at Butler, and he called me up one day. They were playing Marquette at home, and he's like, I got 2 tickets if you want to go. The place is just absolutely electric. I've never watched a college game in there. I've never seen a Butler game. So to be a fan and to watch that is unbelievable. So I know Indiana fans are literally chomping at the bit to get in this building and watch these guys tonight. I just really want to see those guys again. Newkirk is back in town. Devontae Green, Jawan's my guy. Race Thompson is he's a brother to me. So just to be around those guys again and see them and just forget basketball, man. How's life going? Like, is there anything I can help you guys with? Like, that's what I want to do. I want to catch up with my boys and just see how things are.
Absolutely. Derek, I can't thank you enough. As always, it is a joy and a pleasure to get to see and talk to you. I look forward to seeing you Sunday night as hopefully Assembly Ball is playing in the second round of the TBT.
I will be there. So we come up, we'll grab a drink and we'll catch up ourselves.
I'm going to have those Tip to Tornado shirts made up. You think I'm kidding? You wait. I'm going to be on it. I'm going to be on it as soon as I get off of the show.
You're going to see me at halftime shooting those out of an air cannon. I love it.
Boom, baby.
Boom.
Last thing, what do you do for merchants?
So now I only wear one hat. So I'm a part of a client deposit services team. So our goal is to get people in the door, create relationships, build up our portfolios and bring in deposits so MCC can go out and do what they need to do with them in multifamily housing. So it's fun. I'm recruiting every day. I'm recruiting. I haven't stopped since I left.
There you go. Derek Elston, thank you so much for joining us on the program, brother. I appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jim.
Absolutely. Hey, big thanks to everybody today. Mike DeCourcy for joining us. Chase Briscoe, of course. Alan Bestwick. And most importantly, each and every one of you, John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines so many times. And boy, we may be wrecking next week, right? But until Monday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.